Hello again from my front porch. It is winding down to Christmas time here, and I still got the beard. People asked if I was going to keep it on. I'm going to keep it on. My approach now is that I'm going to keep it until it becomes a pain to manage. To take care, because I don't want it to be all scraggly and bushy. So I've started to use the trimmer things to try to keep it under control. And so far so good. But I am discovering there are some downsides, some inconveniences to having the facial hair, and that's a topic for another time. But again, it just comes out to the pros and cons. I'll have to weigh that. But a lot of my friends are like, you look really good with the beard. You should keep that on. And I'm not quite sure if they mean I look really good or if they just mean I look better with a lot of my face covered. But with friends you can never tell, because remember, some of these people were the same ones that didn't tell me how I looked with my big mustache I used to just have on its own until after I shaved it. It's like, well, thanks, friends. Anyway, speaking of friends, I see on social media a lot. It's funny. Social media is an odd place to observe, to people watch, if you will, because there are a whole lot of keyboard warriors that say a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of hurting people, a lot of angry people, a lot of depressed, emotionally damaged people who get online and they take it out on everybody else. I'm miserable and I'm going to make sure you're miserable. I don't care what it is that's going on. I'm going to find a way to make it negative. There just really is. There is some of that, and it's unfortunate. And that may be where some of this comes from that I've observed as well. But it's the topic of being a real friend. Where I see people having discussions, and I've even sort of been part of some, not to the extent of what I'm envisioning here, but some conversations about, hey, is this person, do they really qualify as a real friend? Because maybe I've never even met them in person. Maybe I only know them on Facebook. And so it got me thinking. This discussion about, well, are you a real friend? Are you being a real friend? You're not being a real friend. Well, if you were a real friend of mine, and all this kind of stuff. And I got to thinking, what does it even mean to be a real friend? How is a real friend different than just friend? And I suppose everybody will have their own definitions of this stuff, and everybody will have their own interpretations. For me, I sort of use the term friend in a really broad way that some others might actually think of more as they are an acquaintance, or they're just somebody I know, somebody that's in my circle, at work or socially or whatever. But I use the term friend pretty freely. If you and I have met, if we've interacted, it doesn't matter even how many times, even if it's just one time, but we seem to strike it off. We seem to have a connection. We seem to get along well. We had some laughs. Whatever if it's out dancing to live music, or if it's laughing at a comedian, or if it's walking through the botanical center admiring flowers, whatever the scenario was. We've met, we've interacted, we've had a little connection. I won't say bonding. Bonding is a little deeper in my opinion, but we've had a connection. I consider you now a friend. I might not even know your name, or at least your whole name. I might just know your first name, or maybe your nickname. But in my mind, next time I see you, I treat you as a friend. So to me, just to help clarify, to me, that's what friend means. Somebody that I am friendly with. And I don't have to have a real deep relationship with them. To me, a real friend are the ones that I actually have depth with, that I actually have a deep relationship with. That there's more than just that superficial seeing each other out and around and going, hey, how you doing? Let's have some fun. And then you leave and that's it. No, it's people who mean more to you than that. Now, you all know I have my bestie, Tara. And in fact, Tara, I'm leaving for the airport today to fly to Ohio. It's cold. We got some snow last night. Not a lot, but enough to make the roads a little weird. And Tara is still giving me a ride to the airport. We do that for each other. We tend to be each other's airport Uber when possible. Sometimes it doesn't work because we're both traveling and it doesn't line up. But today she lives way on the other end of Des Moines, way on the south side of Des Moines. I live way to the north of Des Moines, not even in Des Moines itself, but north of Des Moines. And she's driving all the way to come get me, to take me to the airport, which is back on the south side. Way inconvenient for her, way out of her way, but she dutifully does this because we're besties, we're best friends. But to me, that's a real friend. And you know, I know I'm going to list some examples and probably offend some people because I don't include them. But I think of like Steve Roberts and his wife Christy. You know, Steve, you know, I met him running Pi 5, but we connected and then we bonded. We became bros, you know, or whatever you want to say. And it's been a remarkable connect. Now he runs a restaurant over in Redfield, Iowa now, and it's more difficult for me to get over there to see him on a regular basis, and yet we have stayed connected. That bond is still there. And if I need something, if I need help getting a piece of large furniture in a truck to my house, Steve, he's right there. He's prompt. You know, another couple that I've known for even longer, Mike and Julie Sweat, who I've encountered through the church we used to go to up in Ames. But then they've moved out of the Ames area. I've moved out of the Ames area. We've stayed in contact, and we hardly see each other in person at all anymore. Maybe once, possibly twice a year if we're lucky. And yet, when we're together, or even when we're not together, even when we're communicating just online through Messenger or something, the richness of that relationship, the depth of that relationship is still there. Likewise, there are people who I have never met, or I may have only met one time, but I've interacted with significantly online through Facebook, or people I've met at conferences, people I've met at events. I was at that Star Trek thing up in New York a few months ago, and I met some wonderful people there who I developed really great relationships with, and some of whom I still have conversation and communication with, and they're just beautiful people, wonderful, magnificent people, and those are kind of more that depth. And there's a whole lot of folks in the Filipino community that I've gotten to know that, you know, some of them I don't actually even know their name, or I can't pronounce their name, but I see them and immediately my heart lights up because, oh, it's you, and I hug on them and I love on them and they feel the same way. And it's more than just the little, hey, how you doing? There's a rich depth there. I know I keep using those words, but that's what it means to me. So then the question is, using my definition, because my show, who can qualify to be a real friend by that definition? Anybody, everybody. But it has to be a two-way street. And I think that's where the wheels fall off a lot of relationships, friendships and otherwise, is that there is one person who invests in that relationship, trying to drive it, trying to enrich it, trying to keep it going, and the other person is just kind of, One wants to be a real friend, the other one wants to be an acquaintance. Not, you know, that just friend, maybe barely level. And that doesn't work. You want to be a real friend, both of you have to agree. That's what I want. That's where I want this to be. Now, real friend does not mean romantic relationship. And I believe you can have real friendships with people of the opposite gender. Some people don't believe that. Some people think that, you know, like my best friend Tara, for example. Some people think there's no way that the two of us could be as close as we are as friends and there not be a little something else funny going on the side. Well, there's not. Because we both actually, we've joked about this, but it's true. We know so much about each other because of the depth of the friendship that we know we would never ever work out together. It would just not work. One of us would die. Yes. But as friends, it's great. We can support each other. We can help each other. We can be there for each other. The other stuff? No, that would not work. No, there is no. So I don't think it's a gender even specific thing. It's just, how do you connect with this person, and can you have that depth? And, you know, can you have that depth with somebody that you don't see that you're not personal with. You watching this, you and I may not see each other hardly at all in person, maybe even never in person. And yet, depending on the things that I've shared here on the front porch and the things that you may have messaged back with me, we may have a bond. We may have a connection. We may be friends. We could even be real friends, by my definition, that depth, even if we never have met in person. There are people, and I could start listing individuals that I have barely even met in person, barely spent any amount of significant time with them in person, but we have great depth, great conversation online. And that means a lot, because you can have these conversations, you can open up to somebody, or in my case, I can listen to somebody opening up. Listen, meaning reading what they're saying, and it's very therapeutic. It can be very beneficial. Does that make them a real friend? Maybe. It definitely makes them a friend, because you have to have a level of trust. If you're going to open up to somebody, you have to believe that you're opening up and they're going to take you seriously, and they're not going to be turning around and using it as gossip fodder to spread to the rest of the world. You have to know that you can trust the person that you're sharing with. So there's at least the friend dynamic. But depending on where that goes, depending on how much the person is willing to open up and how much you are willing to share, you move into that real friendship role, because a real friend will listen to you, will understand, will not judge, might not even advise, might just listen and let you vent, because they know that's what you need. Now, there's also the definition of that a friend is somebody that you can call up and say, hey, I need help moving an object. A real friend is somebody you can call up and say, hey, I need help bearing the body. I don't know that I would go that far, but as analogies go, yes, it does represent the difference of depth. The reason I'm digging into this, though, is because we are now approaching the Christmas season, and people they go overboard with gifts. I got to buy lots of gifts, lots of presents, give lots of things to lots of people. I got to show them, prove how I feel, prove that they are my friend. No, you don't prove that with gifts. You prove that by being a real friend. Not the superficial, hey, how you doing? But depth, richness, fullness. Which means not only do you have to be willing to give that to others, but you have to be willing to let others in to give that to you, so that bond can truly be established. So this holiday season, whatever your situation is, whoever is in your world or not in your world, I challenge you to consider giving the gift of being a real friend to others around you. And it's not going to be everybody. You got to be selective. But find those people. Identify them in your life, in your sphere of influence, and give them the gift of you being a real friend. All right, I got to get going to Ohio. Whoof, off I go. And with that, I'll let you go, and I'll see you next time from my front porch.